Hey, what's up and welcome back everyone to another Warzone video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 10 loadouts that you need to be using after the most recent Season 4 Reloaded update. There's been a massive shift with the meta, whether it's been buffs to snipers, nerfs to some of the key ARs, and even buffing some SMGs, bringing them back into the meta. The meta's actually in a pretty decent spot, and we're going to talk about that all today. But this video took forever to put together, gentlemen. I spent over 4 hours running all of the updated stats for these new weapons, testing them out in-game to see how they feel, and trust me, these are going to be some amazing weapons for you to use in the coming weeks. Make sure to drop a like on this video if you enjoy it. If you're screenshotting, make sure you're subscribing, and most importantly, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is Scuff. You guys know Scuff has been my weapon of choice when it comes to Warzone. This is my custom Scuff Reflex. It is the new PS5 controller, but we recently had a little competition where we had members of the Academy design a Scuff on a Twitter competition, and this was the winning design. I think they just went, for my aesthetic with the blue and the black and the white, but the Academy voted on it. But if you guys want to check out your own Scuff, design your very own, you can just go on to the link in the pinned comment and the description. You can use code Isaac for a discount, whether it's Xbox, PS4, or the newly renovated PS5. This thing is an absolute tank. It is my weapon of choice, as is for the many other Warzone pros. Check out the link in the pinned comment and the description and use code Isaac for a discount to pick up your very own Scuff. But what you guys are interested in is the top 10 loadouts that you should be using after the Season 4 Reloaded update. We're going to be going back between this page where I show you the build and also showing you some stats for context. Now, keep in mind, there are some players who are playing solo quad tournaments or they're playing in custom lobby tournaments, and their meta is going to be different. So just because your favorite streamer is using something different, there is a context, right? Most of you aren't running around solo quadding, and most of you aren't playing this game for 80 hours a week like some of these pros are. So we need to take the context of it, take the stats, and most importantly, take the usability into account for the weapons that you should be using, and it makes sense for you to use. So starting with that in mind, we're going to take a look at one of my favorite guns that I don't think enough people give credit to, and that is the Cooper Carbine. Dude, take a look at these numbers, man. It is absolutely insane. So even here right now with my old Cooper build, the Cooper is still killing faster than the Kilo, the NZ, the Cooper, the Automaton, and all these numbers are updated for Season 4.5. So it's like the buffed Kilo, right? The Cooper is still killing faster than all of them at the close range and then at long ranges as well. But where it gets even better is you can rock the compressed rounds. And what the compressed rounds do is oh, wrong gun. And what the compressed rounds do is they increase your fire rate, which then makes the Cooper significantly better than all of its adversaries. It adds a little bit of recoil, but it is completely negligible. If you watch my video from yesterday, all the Cooper clips were using compressed rounds, and it is an absolute beam. This is by far my favorite weapon for solos. If you're using an AR in solos, this is the build that you should be rocking. You can go and take a screenshot right here. Once again, if you're struggling with recoil, you can rock the lengthened. It still kills plenty fast, especially compared to the other ARs. But if you can handle the compressed rounds, which I think you should be able to, it kills unbelievably fast. Now, does it have the damage per mag as the NZ? No. Does it have the damage per mag of a KG? No. So is it going to be a good solo quad gun? No. Solos, or if you're playing with a squad and you're playing tight with your squad, nothing beats the Cooper in my opinion. The same goes for the Type 100. I'm not even going to pull up the stats on this. You guys have seen this in the past. I've mentioned it multiple times. This is the fastest killing SMG in the game. Insane movement speed. They took away a lot of that visual recoil, so it's an absolute laser beam. Maybe not sniper support, but if you are 1v1 against any other gun in the game, you are winning with the Type 100. This gun is an absolute blast to use. You need to be rocking it if you're rocking solos. If you're playing quads, maybe lean towards the Blixen because you have more of a magazine capacity. But if you're playing tight with a squad or if you're playing solos, this gun needs to be in your hand. Now, moving forward to what might be considered a little bit more of like the meta, right? Of like, this is the tournament meta. This is what you should expect to see players using inside of tournaments. It is the KG. Talked about it a few weeks ago, man. People are finally starting to get on the train. The KG is the new long-range meta. If you're talking Bren meta, if you're talking NZ meta, this is next up. Insane damage per mag. It's got the great 3 to 6x scope that you're used to. Great time to kill potential. It gets beat out by time to kill on some other things in the game, but it feels very balanced because of the fact that that time to kill lines up with very, very minimal recoil. So we go over to the KG M40. Insane muzzle velocity, 1550, or like feels almost hit scan. But it is going to fall a little bit short, okay? In terms of stats, But in terms of usability, I promise you, this is what all the pros are starting to use. The Bins, like the Almonds, the Aidens, this is the gun that's in their hands. Look at the red line. The red line right now pretty much lines up exactly with what the green line is, which is the NZ. So the KG and the NZ are basically the exact same. The KG now has 10 more bullets than the NZ, better bullet velocity than the NZ, and less recoil than the NZ. This is absolutely the new tournament meta. Pairing along with it, we already know the Blixen is kind of my go-to. I'll be honest, the Marco and the Armagera are kind of creeping up there, and as I get some more reps in with them, they may be the best, you know, tournament AR in my, or SMG in my opinion. But you guys know I have created the perfect Blixen in the past. We spent a lot of time perfecting this build. I rock the recoil booster for the faster time to kill, but then I still have subsonic, so I stay off the mini map. That's typically how I like, because when you're in a complex gunfight, right, and you're, you know, inside of windows and doors and like flanking and going all over the place, people are going to look off their mini map, look at the red dot, and track you down. But if you're not showing the red dot and they're relying on enemy, like their teammates, to either ping or comm, that's when you can kind of get mixy and people, you get lost in translation. But if you're showing up as a red dot on the map all the time, it's a little bit easier to track you down. So I prefer to rock subsonic. You'll see that as kind of a trend as we go through these. I'll either have suppressor or I'll have subsonic. But this right now would be my tournament loadout heading in. If I really wanted to sweat, go solo quad or duo quad, this would be my tournament loadout. Moving forward, like I said, the NZ is still good, man. We just saw the numbers. It lines up exactly with the KG. They did nerf the recoil. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit harder to control. But as I ranted about in last video, yes, you can add 25% more recoil, but if the recoil value is 0 to begin with, like 25% more on 0 is still 0. So they really just need to take this thing out to the shed and get rid of it. The NZ is still very viable, still very usable, but I would prefer the KG in my hands. Now, the Marco, a lot of players are starting to rock this now instead of the Blixen, and let's explain exactly why. So when we go over to my SMG chart, we can see here we have the Blixen, we have the Marco. We'll talk about some of the other sniper supports here in a moment. The Marco, as you can see here, is in purple. So in green is the Blixen, in purple is the Marco, and the Marco is actually technically better than the Blixen, especially when you start to consider how the Blixen does damage to the extremities. The Marco seems to be a lot more forgiving, and if you picked it up off the ground, you probably noticed that Marco's hitting pretty decent. So what we're doing here is we're building this gun out for a lot of speed with the gung-ho, the quick, the skeletal. We're rocking recoil booster for the faster time to kill, but we're keeping subsonic so we stay off the mini-map, and then we're getting the taped grip as well in there to help out with some of the movement speed. You can rock things like potentially discard, which will help you with an empty reload. I don't think Frenzy actually works, so I just go ahead and rock gung-ho. And the Marco, I think, is probably going to be next up. Speaking of next up, the Automaton. The Automaton is still definitely within the meta. I don't know why we forgot about it, why we've been sleeping on it, but if you looked at that first chart, the Automaton is still very strong. It lacks that punch that the KG has in terms of like damage per bullet and damage per mag that the NZ and the KG has. It feels kind of like that M13 roll, almost like the Cooper Carbine roll, where it does, you know, faster fire rate, less recoil, but it doesn't quite pack the punch that you would need to pack in quads. But as you can see, looking for the blue line right here, okay, it's still very viable when you get into that mid-range. It's better statistically than the NZ, the KG, and the Kilo. But like I said, it's kind of lacking on that damage per mag. And that's honestly kind of a good balance. You have the Cooper, which has the lowest damage per mag, and then it goes up to the Automaton, and then it goes up to the KG, and it's actually like that's how balance in the game should work. You're making a sacrifice in terms of damage per mag, time to kill, mobility, all that good stuff. And yeah, I think the Automaton is still in a very, very solid spot. Now, this one surprised me. The Armagera. Okay. The stats on this, and here's the Automaton build, by the way, if you didn't already have this. This is kind of standard for what we've been rocking for a while. The Armagera surprised me. Okay. Looking at those stats, the Armagera, we're looking here at the blue line, okay? Very fast time to kill up close, the fastest out of everything that we're looking at. If you look in those close blue lines, it's killing in 594 milliseconds. A decent little step up there, and even as you get into the mid-range, it beats the Marco and it beats the Blixen. But one way that it actually excels above all of its peers, which might actually push it up to the top of the meta for me, is the strafe speed. Look at this. You are zooming. Even with the time to kill that beats the Blixen and the Marco, this build will take you 4.6 meters per second strafe. Compare that. the Marco at 2.8. Compare that to the Blixen at 3. The Arma, you are actually going to be snapping people's aim assist with how fast you are moving with this gun, and you still have a 72-round mag. This Arma, I'm going to be making some dedicated videos on this. It's going to be a very, very fun weapon to use. Here's the build right here if you want to go ahead and take a screenshot on it. We went ahead and threw Vital just to help out with some of that extremity damage to make it a little bit more forgiving, but you can always rock things like Hardscope to help out with that recoil control as well. But this gun is surprisingly, I think this and the Marco are going to start taking over the meta here in the next couple of weeks. So moving forward from there, okay, we actually have a very surprising gun. And I know you're thinking, like, Iceman, the Itra burst, like a burst weapon? Oh, boys, I thought the exact same thing whenever Twitch chat was telling me. Okay, so let's compare it to the Kilo, the Cooper, the Auto. Look at the Itra, okay? Look at the Itra. The Itra's here in green, and it smokes even the Cooper. The Itra burst is killing up close at 642 milliseconds. It's actually a surprisingly quick gun to use, and it stays down there even at long range and stays as low as 738. Now, granted, it's a burst weapon. It's going to be a little bit harder to control, but the recoil is very minimal. They've taken away a lot of the visual recoil on this gun, and it's actually a lot of fun to use. We're going to be showing a dedicated video for it here in a bit. If you want to wait for that, I'll prove it to you. But the Itra has a very impressive time to kill. It could be a fun, like, kind of sniper supporter, or just could kind of, like, bring back some of the Cold War AUG or the Cold War M16, some of the burst metas we've had in the past. It has the numbers to back it up. It is surprisingly good. Now, another gun that's surprisingly good is the Cold War MP5. They actually buffed this thing in the recent update. They buffed both the Cold War MP5 and the Modern Warfare MP5. The Modern Warfare MP5 doesn't really hang, but if you rock the Cold War MP5 with this build, what I always used for, you know, max movement speed, it actually does pretty well. Here is the Itra burst build, by the way, if you didn't get that, and that would actually be a 3 to 6, not the 4x8. This right here is the build to go with. Now, you can technically get a faster time to kill with the 8mm, but I think the recoil is a little bit easier to control with this 36 round. We'll be testing that more out in the future. But once again, I'm super surprised. They ended up buffing the MP5, Submachine Gun Alpha. They buffed the damage range on it, and they also buffed the neck multiplier, which brings this thing, compared to the Blixen, right here, the MP5 compared to the Blixen, and I'm kind of spoiling some things for later. The MP5 actually hangs in very well, and then even at mid-range, it's right there with the Blixen. Great movement speed, kind of beats it at some ranges, tied in some ranges, and then beats it in the medium range. If you're a fan of your Cold War weapons and you're sticking to the Modern Warfare or the Vanguard guns, that is an option, very viable option for you to be running here in the future. Now, snipers got buffed. Across the board, snipers got buffed. We've talked about my 3-line build in the past. If you want a one-shot headshot across any range, this is your gun to use. I rock the 3.5 times rifle scope because it allows me to get no glint and a faster aim down sight, but they actually buffed a few of the scopes. One of the scopes was the 5X. They also buffed the 10X, and they also buffed one other one where they reduced the aim down sight idle sway, you know, that really painful sway that we would have on this gun. They reduced it by 50%. So I still need to test it to see if it's viable, but statistically, this still is my favorite long-range sniper in the game. But they've also buffed a lot of the other snipers. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. In terms of sniper support, though, just about nothing beats the Nikita. The Nikita kills incredibly quick. You guys have seen it in the past. People have been gassing up the Nikita as a long-range AR, but it's not there, okay? Long-range Nikita doesn't have the recoil control that the KG or the NZ or the Cooper has. It's not viable at that capacity, but it is a fantastic sniper support. And as snipers come back into the meta, we might need something to fit that role a little bit. And that's what I've built here, is a little bit more of a medium range, a little bit more of a faster build than your typical Nikita build for your sniper support category. This gun kills incredibly fast, one of the fastest killing ARs in the game. Can't reach out to range. That's what we got our sniper for. Moving forward, you weren't tracking. They buffed a lot of the snipers. They increased the max damage range by about 35% for one-shot, one-kill potential. That means the car is now in the range of like 75 meters when it comes to the one-shot, one-kill potential. That basically means for all of Rebirth and Fortune's Keep, as far as I'm concerned, this is the thing that you need to be using. You guys can build your cars however you want. You can throw on the Stalker, faster aim down sight. You can use Focus if you want less flinch. You can use Sleight of Hand if you want faster reloads. You guys all know how to build your car at this point, but they buffed it by 35% now. These are much more viable. Still probably not Caldera viable, but definitely small map viable. From there, we're throwing in like the fastest time to kill close range gun, which is the AS44. Built it out for max time to kill, but also good recoil control. AS44 here is a fantastic sniper support for you to be using. If you haven't ran the numbers on it before, here you can go ahead and take a look at it. The AS44 is the in orange, and as you can see, it even beats out things like the Cooper Carbine, which is notorious, you know, in some of the stats that we've been looking at for being a very fast killing gun. It beats out the Volk, which is also a very nice sniper support as well. It doesn't beat out the Itra, surprisingly, but the AS44 is a very strong weapon for you to be using if you're looking for a sniper support. Not long range viable. It's kind of like that Nikita as well, but it's a lot of fun to use, especially in small map BR. Now, one thing you may have noticed looking forward there is the Volk. Here's the Volk build. I want to make sure if I missed it, you got the AS44 build here as well. The Volk was actually shown to me by my buddy Drakota, and we ran the numbers on it, and I was shocked. Look here at red. The Volk beats out all of these other guns at close range, killing at 630 milliseconds. I mean, compare that to some of the SMGs, right? Like the AS44 kills at 630, the Blixen kills at 600, the Nikita, the Marco kills at 688. So we're talking about an AR here that absolutely smokes a lot of those with a killing of 630. Now, granted, it doesn't have the movement speed or aim down sight, but this is a sniper support build or like a mid-range build. But it can also reach out to the longer ranges. This is going to be a great Fortune's Keep weapon, a great Rebirth Island weapon. The Blix or the Volk is fantastic. One thing that blew my mind though, they buffed the Deagle like by a lot. Like by a lot, they buffed the Deagle. So if you look and you go into, if you go into the update and you look up Handgun Echo, they buffed the max damage from 70 to 91. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this out to be a akimbo. Okay. So if we were to have an akimbo, we'll have 70 and 70 previously, right? So we boom, shoot twice, 140 damage. Boom, shoot twice again, 280 damage. But now when they brought it up to 91, boom, shoot twice, 182 damage, shoot again, 364 damage, which means you can kill people with 2 taps of the akimbo. Pow, pow, of the Deagle. Look at the stats, boys. This one is disgusting. Compare it to the Blixen. Compare it to the MP5. I've got to scroll down so you can see it. The purple line right there is the 50... It's the Desert Eagles that we're familiar with all the way from Modern Warfare. I don't know what made them decide to bring them back, but this is the build. Monolithic, Forge Tack Extended, 5 milliwatt, lightweight trigger, and then akimbo. I don't have the akimbo unlocked. I need to do that challenge. I will definitely be doing the challenge now. You could also get rid of the extended. I like the extended because it helps out with, you know, reaching out and having that damage range be a little bit further. You have a 7-round mag by default, so that means you have a 14-round. I don't think you would need this, you know, 26 rounds in total because it's going to hurt your movement speed. But if you don't care about your movement speed and you definitely don't care about your aim down sight speed because you're akimbo, right? You can rock the 13-round extended mag as well. But you definitely want to have the lightweight trigger for faster fire rate. You definitely want the 5 milliwatt for the hip fire that's going to keep your spread smaller. And the monolithic keeps you off the map, but also helps out with your damage range as well. Closing towards the end, the M13. Okay, this is basically the automaton, ladies and gentlemen. It is basically the automaton. If we were to compare it right here, just go in, bring in our standard Modern Warfare gun with the M13, ranged primary, the standard build. If we were to compare it in red, okay, to the automaton, which is in blue, look at the red and the blue lines. They're almost directly on top of each other, especially when you get out to the effective range. The red and blue lines are stacked directly on top of each other. But where the automaton has the advantage, it's got the higher magnification zoom, right? So it's got the higher magnification zoom with the 3 to 6x, and it's got a 75-round mag instead of a 60-round mag. So if you're truly loyal to it, you can rock the M13 in solos, but if I'm being completely honest, outside of Modern Warfare loyalty, the M13 isn't going to do you as much justice. One thing you can rock with it, we talked about in a previous video, is actually the VOK Rogue. That thing is consistently two-shot shotgunning people. It's actually disgusting. If you watched my video yesterday, I was even getting occasional one-shot kills with this build. I would just run into a building, one shot, just completely floor people, consistently two-pumping people, because they buffed shotgun damage by, I think it was like 35% or something. This is a gross weapon to use if you're looking for something to have some fun with. Moving forward towards the end, the final classes, okay? The Kilo. I'm glad they buffed the Kilo. It's an old favorite. It's a fan favorite, but the Kilo is fantastic in terms of time to kill. Like, look at that orange line. Okay, the orange line's hidden right in here. Does a fantastic job inside of 50 meters, but then after 50 meters, it falls way below what a lot of the NZ, the Cooper, the M13, the KG at long range is just not worth it. It doesn't have the high magnification zoom. It doesn't have the damage per mag. So this would be a fantastic gun for Reaper, Fortune's Keep and Rebirth Island, but I would not suggest rocking the Kilo on anything outside of small map. Same thing with the AMAX. The AMAX is actually worse than the Kilo in a lot of ways, and it's got more recoil, and it's only got a 45 round mag. I like that they're trying to bring it back, but sorry boys, don't listen to anyone saying that the AMAX is back. It's better, and it's still very usable in good hands, but if you're truly playing for the best, that's not gonna get it for you. And then the final thing, the fastest killing close range weapon in the game that I know of, it is the dual 1911s, killing in 354 milliseconds. Now granted, these things are full auto dualies, okay? You've seen me talk about them in the past. If someone's rushing in to your building and you sit there with these guns, it's all built for smaller hip fire accuracy, it just deletes them. Is it viable at mid-range? No. Is it a fun thing to have in your back pocket for a ghost loadout with something like the Kilo? Yeah, it could be good, but it's not going to be as reliable as something like a Blixen. But as you can see from these stats, it is an absolute meme weapon to use, and it kills unbelievably fast. So it's something to have in your back pocket, just like those Deagles. But ladies and gentlemen, I tried to rip through that as fast as I can. I was taking notes. I was like running all the numbers. I had so many different tabs up because I was doing tests on all these different weapons. I was reviewing the patch notes. If you found value, if you were screenshotting, freaking like the video, subscribe for more. Shout out again, Scuff. If you want to use this Scuff controller, use the paddles on the back so that way you can slide cancel. You don't have to take your fingers off the thumbstick anymore. You can use the paddles on the back to slide and jump, even get crazy fast trigger fingers with the digital triggers. I'm like clicking a mouse click right here. It's so fast. It's not an actual full actuating trigger. It's just a little mouse click with a digital trigger. Scuff's my weapon of choice. Shout out to them for sponsoring today's video. But that wraps it up. Catch me live on Twitch if you want to see me testing out these weapons. Subscribe, because I'll be making minor tweaks as I bring these out, and I'm dropping 30 bombs with them and building the absolute perfect build. But I appreciate you guys checking out this Season 4.5 Reloaded video. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.